Unbelievably warm today. Incredibly warm. Just about all of the snow is gone from yesterday, and we had quite a covering yesterday too. Still, but it's gone now. Spring is here, you can smell it. In New England, there's a smell. It's a very distinct smell. And Earth has dealt it. You know how they say, whoever smelt it, dealt it? Yeah, that's what happened here. The Earth is dealing out its spring smell. And that is a meaningful thing. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My heart space. Welcome back. My heart space, did you change that heart color? For some reason, it stands out today differently. It's hitting differently, as they say. We're going to go through a patch here. It's going to get red for a moment. Possibly. Potentially. Always seems to be a vortex right there. Signal always goes out right in that spot. Whew. Robins are out. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, beep, beep. Cass, thanks for the heart me. Thanks for hearting me. Welcome all. The journey has begun. It's officially spring. I mean, not according to the Earth and its birthday, but you can always celebrate birthdays early. That's what we're doing today. Says the Earth, says the robins. Says the black-capped chickadee. Certainly says the juncos. The juncos have hightailed it to Canada. The 51st state. Haha. They've hightailed it north. We're just going to get the heart rate going a little bit here. I'm going to get it pumping. Get some shadow work. Do some shadow work. I had a flagged video. Gave me a violation this morning from yesterday. It's just a repost. So I appealed it, and they removed the violation. My appeal worked. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. Jimmy G says, as above, so below. Indeed, Jimmy G. Welcome. Grand Rising Beautiful Souls, Cass says, and everyone wants to know, what's the story behind Grand Rising? It's the idea we've come into our aliveness. At least that's how I depict it. We come into our aliveness every day. Every day. Every day we come into our aliveness. We wake in the morning. Consciousness, which has been with us in a shadow throughout the night. Technically, we were the shadow, interacting with our highest self in dream state. We come into the waking life. We come into this body. That's a grand rising. We've been born again. Look, that's an eye. You could interpret that as an eye. You could define that. Hey, there's a fly on my hand, and it's got metallic design on it. Hello, fly. Flies can't really bite you. These ones can't. So all they're looking for is basically salt, maybe a little bit of moisture, and this one's found jackpot. So I'm going to let it have a little bit because they've been, hibernating until yesterday. It's like, this is a big, monstrous, lumbering man. I'm going to hitch a ride. And this is what happens. These flies will be following me around. And it's a big indication that we've had a shift, right? Let's see if the fly lands on my hand again. Let's see if it's courageous to show itself to the camera. No, it's left. It's decidedly left. Decidedly. Pelios says, what's up, big homie? I'm doing well, Pelios. What's up with you? My lone subscriber, Pelios the Faithful. I'm going to call you Pelios the Faithful. I appreciate earning that faith from you, Pelios. Jimmy G says, I finally understand that I am a soul having a human experience. This is amazing, Jimmy G. Not so much for my ego as much as it is for you coming into your power. Pelios says, not much. Life is getting better. Yes. All right, everybody, we got to stop and talk about this for a second. I received 3 messages yesterday, each and every one saying that at one point in the recording, something profound happened for them in these walks in the woods, and that I'm actually going through like a vortices of areas where people are healing and stuff is happening. One person heard me say something directly to them like this, and then went right back to my show, like right back to the show. But it was a manifestation for them, sending them a specific message. Another person witnessed something totally different about their own consciousness. Other people are coming into their aliveness and being, but something's happening in these woods. Not just to you, but to me too. It's the Me Too movement, and it's happening in the woods. It's the new Me Too. It's not Mewtwo. It's a good show. It's a good Pokemon. Let's see here. Ellen Schwartz McQuay. Thanks for following. Robert is sending over love. Oh, here's our fly. Whoops. Come on, fly. Don't fly away. Come back. He's metallic. I want to show you. He looks very metallic. And green. Metallic green. Yeah, so what's really wild is we have this comment. I just want to bring it up again and pin it. This is coming from Jimmy G. It's a major, profound realization. And this is by no means a form of indoctrination. This is a personal decision to understand that Jimmy G is an identity where there's a life principle flowing through him. It's called consciousness. It's the awareness that we can witness we are alive. And what this does is as it starts to come through self as a witness, as an observer, Jimmy comes into truth as aliveness. And so everything falls into suit with that awareness. Instead of us being what I refer to as victims of external circumstances, Jimmy now has come into truth and being and is experiencing the blissful contact with aliveness that has always been there. But now it's a direct contact with it because there's no mismanagement of the energy for the creation of time in order to create narratives for entertainment purposes in the collection of pain. So all of that effort, all that energy, all of that currency is now being used in a way where it's building up into a savings account, like a big plethora of cash, a cachet of energy that's now used for manifestation rather than for mere entertainment purposes. It's a major change. It's a major shift. So congratulations, Jimmy G. My heart space says it's the screen portal. So this is crazy. And I got to tell you, folks, I've had a few interesting experiences with screens. A number, as a matter of fact. And I've had them do things that aren't part of the Apple design, nor the software. And so what it speaks to is that there is another force at work. That's my narrative. And this force is divine in nature, and it has superiority over the technology. So what people are getting, which is really fun, you're having what's called darshan. You see, if I suddenly stop and I say, hey, Miranda, you listening? I don't know who Miranda is, but you do, because that's your ID, you know? And it's like I'm talking to you directly. Don't freak out. It's just a timeline shift. Remember the story that I told you about my brother? And I was right here. This is a rhythmic pattern we're going through right now. This is a synchronistic pattern. It means we're in flow already. It's already happening. So I'm very happy about that. So it was right here when I was talking about my brother and I was talking about video games. When I was a child, I was 11. My brother was playing Super Mario Brothers with me, and we were playing a 2-player game, which meant you take your turn. You know, one person plays. If they die, then the other person plays. So my brother's playing, and I'm observing, and I see this big orange golden orb flowing and just floating down the street in our suburban town in New England. And it stops, and then it flows right into my third eye. Right in. Bam, I'm 11 years old. Goes right in. And I say to my brother, I said, Mike, did you see that? He goes, oh my God, I did. What was that? I said, I don't know, but it flew right into my head. And he goes, what? I said, it flew right into my head, Mike. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you just said you saw it. No, I didn't. So how I can explain that is the same way that you could be brought into a life experience where suddenly something is said to you that appears to come directly to you as a message. I am unaware of it because we've had a timeline shift. We're constantly shifting our timelines depending on how we entertain the imagination. So the imagination is God's manifold expression of aliveness, and it's constantly building on itself. Every time we fold new proteins into our body through our chromosomes, every time we're doing that, we're going through a life experience. We're collapsing something from an infinite source into an observable reality. And it's done so quickly, at such an immediate refresh, that it's perceived as solid and fluid and extremely convincing. However, it's not absent of its anomalies. And some of these anomalies come from truth within you. They present themselves in the form of a message that only you can understand. But I get to serve as an instrument. You know, your cell phone also serves as an instrument. Anything outside of you, it serves as a temporary instrument that has a beginning, middle, and end to the message and to its existence. And I'm no different as an identity. Nor is anyone else. It's so ephemeral, as they say. It's fleeting. It's a short-lived life in that way. So we have this unique snowflake that literally is melting the moment it comes into this earth. It's very short-lived. And it's unique. And we get to make it as unique and beautiful as we desire based on our life experiences and decisions. So enjoy. Enjoy the uniqueness of your life experience. Jimmy G, thank you for the heart puff and for following. Pelio says, sorry, let me emphasize, what I've realized is he is talking to you. Yes, your infinite aliveness is actually having a communion with you, if you're present. And what's beautiful about this is it's a choice. It's not one that you have to say, okay, I should feel guilty that I'm not present. No, you shouldn't feel guilty at all. It's just however you choose to use your aliveness, and God gives you no restrictions with that. The infinite intelligence that is your aliveness. Consciousness gives you no restriction as far as how you use your aliveness, nor will this infinite intelligence ever judge you. That's what's beautiful about it. It's non-judgmental, it is supportive, it's caring, it's life-expanding, and it's healing. So that's how the principle works. It works the same way in all things. I mean, this tree is expanding and it's being healed, it's being supported by the same life principle, as are the mycelium networks underneath. It's only until we start to define them as good or bad that we get into issues. We could say that bacteria is a bad thing, but it makes 55% of our human body. At the same time, the moment that we give up on the ego and we leave this sojourn, our life experience ends, whatever the end of the game is for us. That's the moment that bacteria starts to do really good work. It starts to proliferate and take over the body, introduces rigor mortis, and distributes the nutrients accordingly for more life to be expressed on this planet. It's called decomposition. And it's another form of life. So the life principle is just constantly expressing itself in the same way. It's seeking opportunities for newfound expression so that the intelligence can learn more about itself through things, because it can't be a thing itself. It has to collapse into being as an iteration. It's limited. It has a beginning, middle, and end. So it has to fall into a place that's illusion. Because God can't be a thing, it has to create a world of illusion in order to pretend that it exists in some way. And it does that through the creation of what we call things, objects. And we are no exception as human beings. This vessel of life is very brilliant, don't get me wrong. It's a technological marvel. It's a walking miracle. At the same time, it is an expression of God's divine grace in order to learn more about itself through us. And the more we're present, the more it can commune directly with us in a way that is adhering to our wish fulfillment. And that's what we get to here. When you step into the imagination and you truly believe yourself to be in a kingdom as a proprietor of this ego, you can add any detail you want to it, not feel guilty, and be able to experience and feel it before it manifests itself. Just like a gardener can feel the harvest upon the tilling of the soil. That recycling of nutrients and its renewal is just as satisfying as the harvest day. But for the majority of people who are not gardeners, they just want to have that harvest day. They look forward to harvest because it's been such a hard season, Whereas the gardener, the true horticulturist, takes pleasure in the daily footprint, knowing that there will be surprises along the way that give insights on how to improve the yield, and that those adjustments can be made daily to improve the yield, to increase its quality. So God's manifold expression gives us the opportunity to take steps, and we do daily footprints here in our gardens that are personalized for our wish fulfillment. So I'm in no place to judge you. If it's something that you want, if you want to feel pain, if you want to identify with restrictions and limitations in a way that's permanent, you can certainly manifest that, and probably have. And you can perpetuate it. You can even have it destroy your own body. You can have it turn on you, if that's the narrative. It just requires some continuous thoughts that you're sick, that you're going through these issues, and you start feeding the body the nutrients that it needs to proliferate into disease. But the disease isn't judging you, it's just responding to the conditions being met for its proliferation, for its growth. Just like the bacteria, the moment you die, sees it as an opportunity to express its life principle through you. So it's not so much judging by saying, I hate you, here's your disease. It's just the conditions are right. If you're thinking that you're ill, that's the biggest part of the condition being met. And then the rest can be facilitated through eating sugar. It feeds cancer cells 8 times better than other forms of nutrients you can give to your body. And it just carries its way through to manifestation. And it's just another expression of God's grace that you're using. I would say, why not come into awareness of that? Instead of believing it's being done to you because there's some story of malice behind it. It's actually the life principle wanting to do exactly what you're asking for. And it could care less whether or not you blame it. It's still expressing itself because you felt it the most. Same thing goes with your healing, with your expression of goodness, whatever it is that you desire. It's not judging you, saying, I like you, therefore you're going to have these things. No. It simply knows you feel it the most. That's where your faith is. So everyone has faith. Everyone has prayer. Everyone does it. We either do it knowingly, and it leads to specific results that bring us benefit, according to our wish fulfillment, what we desire, or we do it unknowingly, and things manifest anyway. You see, it's not going to stop. The life principle isn't going to stop manifesting because we simply don't believe in it. It's not how it works. The life principle has inertia, and it can't be interfered with because it is eternal. And it is omnipresent, omnipotent. It can't be stopped. So the life principle as consciousness can't be stopped, even if we willed it to. But we can create a construct where it appears to have stopped. We can certainly do that, and we can create an environment in this duality where it appears to be against us. We can certainly do that too. And we do. It's just about understanding that we're using our power. That's all I want for you to understand here. Is that you're using your power to create your life situation, just as I'm creating a life situation using my own power. I know now that there are a number of wheels that have been set in motion because of my belief systems prior to this understanding, that if I were given the chance to revise, which I do every day with my daily footprint, I would see it as much differently, right? So the first thing that I noticed helped, or was a change that I could note, was my health. Notice my health was improving. And so that was a big thing, to no longer have pain. And I talked about this yesterday when I was diagnosed with osteoporosis, told I had the back of a 75-year-old man when I was, 29, 30 years old. Was told that. And I didn't accept that narrative. There was some part of that that did not sound good enough to want to become it. So it was a personal choice to become something different than what I was being seen as. And this is a big challenge. Because we grow up believing that doctors know best about our condition. And if they give us a diagnosis that is permanent, then it's likely we believe it and start to adapt it, or adopt it is a better word, as a part of our being. It becomes our personality. I am sick is the affirmation, and I have to just let the subconscious know that this is just a demonstration. I am perfect health is truth. You see, the subconscious is not understanding sarcasm. It doesn't understand the negative either. It's always being impressed with I am. Whether I'm thinking, whether I'm acting, walking, whether I'm speaking, the I am principle, which is a programming language, is constantly impressing the subconscious, and it must. Once again, the subconscious cannot be a thing, and it is a constant, it's a life principle, and it is consciousness itself. So it's constantly being impressed because we are made in the image and likeness of consciousness. As human, we are granted the unbelievable power of not only living in a human body as a vessel of God, as an instrument of God, but we also are given the imagination to impress the infinite source to create things. And we're constantly doing it whether we know it or not, because in order to be conscious, we have to be using the currency of life for us to operate in this game of life. That currency has a name, it's called adenosine triphosphate. And it's the currency of life that everything on planet Earth uses as its currency. All right. Suedo says, I am in perfect health. Thank you. Indeed. Of course you are, Suedo. You are perfect health. You are the life principle, not the death principle, not the disease principle, not the limitation principle. You are the infinite life principle, the generative care that is constantly seeking the means to help you, to assist you, to heal you. That is your truth. So it's great to declare it. Declare it clearly, just as you have. Use your words, use the I am. It's an infinite source. So let's talk about this I am and how to use it. How to use it in a way that is understandable and impressive. Okay? Catherine the Lion says, yes, with a heart. Arya says, act as if you have it or don't have it. Exactly, Arya. That is deciding. That is the way you ask. So let's pin this because it's a really poignant thing that Arya is saying here. Bad Boys of Boston, thanks for following. Arya says, I quantum jumped. Energy healed my son with traumatic brain injury. You see, quantum leaping is simply stepping into an alternative state of being, living from the end, either having it or not, but you're expressing desire in truth. The asking for things is the becoming of things. When we truly ask, we are actually seeing it as real. But what the majority of people do, and this is just to drive this point home, the way that Arya has explained it so brilliantly, is we go to some place of prayer, right? Or we perhaps commune with someone, another human, an embodiment of God. And what we do is we talk in lack and limitation, because what it provides is a comfort zone. It provides rhythm and routine that we're used to. We're used to having limitations because this is a perceived world of limitations. The physical reality that we live in comes with limitations, but it is fueled by something that can't be limited. So in any case, we become used to this idea that we have restrictions, limitations, and we have things impressed upon us that we have no control over. What comes from that is the development of a personality. And the personality is first developed through routine. So the routine form of prayer actually comes in the form of hope. And hope is a very misleading word, and I'm going to explain to you why. Think about this for an example. Let's say you want something, let's say the bills need to be paid, you see the mortgage notices come in, you have X amount of days to pay this, so perhaps you're thinking in time, I have to get this done within this time frame. Okay, so we're already using the imagination for the construction of time to think about, what if I don't pay this? Then what? Will I be out of this house? Will I not have what I need? Will this affect my children in some way? Will they be able to continue going to school? Will my husband or wife leave me? Whatever it is, we go into time deeply. When we get this notice that comes in and we read it. So the next step would be, okay, tell some friends about this life situation as if it's immutable, like it can't be changed unless it's paid. And it's not like the people are going to bail you out. Maybe sometimes they'll bail you out, but is that really empowerment? No, it's enablement. And so we're not going to do that, but I'm going to explain to you what most people do anyway. The next step is, let's go and pray. We have to go all pray together that these bills get paid, that the answer and the means present itself somehow. God, dear God, wherever you are, if you're listening to me, please hear me. I just want you to answer my prayers. I'm such a good person. I do all the best that I can. I work very hard. I love my spouse. I love my children. And I can't understand why I received this message from these horrible collectors telling me that I will be out of my home if I don't pay this bill. And all I ask is for the miracle, the answer. Please send me a sign, dear Lord. So most of us will say these things outside of ourselves, as if the salvation, which is the payment of the bill, is at a distance. And the reason why I've taken so much time to hammer this home in an example is because the subconscious doesn't know what you truly want, ever. But what it's receiving in the form of the use of I am is, I am at a distance from my salvation. And I'm feeling that more than anything else I'm feeling in my given day. In fact, I feel it so much, I want other people to feel it with me. I want my children to feel it with me. I want my spouse to feel it with me. I want my best friends to feel it with me. And I want my community to feel it with me. And I want social media to feel it with me, because I'm posting and talking and telling everyone I don't know what to do, right? So the biggest feeling in the day is, I can't do this. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't deserve this. This is something that's being done to me, and it's not fair, right? So that is a prayer to the subconscious, which will never judge you. It's being impressed with the idea, I want to be at a distance from this. And I also want the salvation to come from outside of me somehow miraculously. This is what the order is. And so what it does is it perpetuates either the enabling of self by receiving your salvation from someone outside of you, thus becoming a slave to that person or situation. You go to the community, and now we're being enslaved by the community. And so the community is going to see you as a slave, because it's being impressed onto the subconscious that they need to think of you as lesser because they have to bail you out every time you reach out to them. While all the time that this is going on, this entire story that I've laid out for you is actually being created by consciousness. You have an aliveness that is being fed to you that was able to wake you in the morning to carry out all of these life experiences, all of these situations, all of these stories require power. And that power is coming from an infinite source that loves you, cares for you so much that it would never interfere with your desire to see it restricted, to see it choked out, to see it keeping you on the edge to where the answers never truly come, to keep you embedded in hope. And so hope is a very misleading thing, and we use the word all the time. In fact, we talk about hope. This is the hope path. I should start calling it the hope path, because every time we walk through this corner, it's about a corner of maybe 50 to 75 meters of length, and we usually discuss the meaning of hope here, and you'll see videos in my profile where I'm right here talking about it. And it's the same exact environment, same markings on the trees, because we have a rhythmic event happening. It's in the form of synchronicity, and it's because we've done this cycle before, and now we get to elaborate on it even more with presence. So then the answer is, or the question becomes, okay, William, you told us a great story. Everyone knows that hope is a bad thing. Okay, it's been defined by the ego as bad. It's not so much bad as it's an exercise of power to be at a distance from your salvation. So what's the desire then? The desire is to see the bills always paid. Never have a single one ever be lacking, to always have even more than enough flowing in to where it never even becomes a consideration for entertainment. It's just constantly there, always flowing, always good. And the only way that the subconscious is going to know that that is what you want is if you become it now. Not yesterday, you had it and no longer, it was a good time, you had a lot of fun. No, it's you either have it now or you never will impress the subconscious to deliver it. There will always be some distance. So if we're using our infinite power for the creation of story, we have to be creating time with our infinite power. That is a misuse of energy, as far as I'm concerned, when all we want is for the bills to always be paid, to never even have to consider them. So the way we do this in the form of asking in truth, the true prayer is, if you want to come to a place of worship, that's great. But you're not stepping in with any urgency. You're stepping in as the wish-fulfilled, bill-paid person, where it's already done. You're walking in and you're sitting down at the pew with ease and gratitude, knowing that the answers have already come. Or you're walking in the woods, or you're going to the restaurant, and you're impressing the subconscious by saying, I am so grateful that the answers are not only here, I never have to entertain this story again, because it's not desirable. And what is desirable is what is my truth right now as a wish-fulfilled being. The bills are always paid. And I never need to worry where it comes from, how it comes about, where it flows from, or any of that, because I know it's coming from within me, in truth, as source. So, money becomes the example in this, but it goes the same way with your health. You go to a doctor, the doctor needs to have a narrative for you of restriction. Because if a doctor can't present to you a narrative of restriction, they no longer have a client. And the doctors need clients, because they have about $500,000 to $1 million in debt to pay, at least in the beginning of their practice, plus the mortgage of their home, plus the lease on their very expensive car, and they might even have a spouse who's a doctor going through the same thing. And so you need to have these clients, because the doctor already believes that their salvation is in the client paying them, and thus they need to find problems with them in order for them to continue coming to pay. So this is a perpetual loop. It's very simple, and in comparison to the payment of bills, it's just an extension. And you can apply this to any form of career in your identity. And this is not to criticize doctors specifically, but it's a great freaking example. Because often, if we are in an area of service, we find ourselves needing to latch on to a client, like send out the feeler, send out the leads, and we're trying to pull somebody into the net because they're going to be our salvation. So it is seeking salvation outside of self that leads to disappointment, 1, suffering, 2, and a mismanagement of one's infinite power. Because there's already a feeling of lack that if I don't get this client to come and be a part of my service, then I won't be able to pay these bills. Is everyone following? If you haven't followed yet, it's right here. It's a red button. Lisa Love, thanks for sharing. Donna Clark, thanks for following. Brian, you too. User 5889957905310, thank you for following. And Arya says the truth. Be it now. Be it now. There is only the now, and I'm going to explain to you how that is. In truth, there is only the now. It's a manifold expression of aliveness. Eukenna says holy. This is resonating so much with what I've been learning about Hermeticism. This is exactly Hermeticism. This is what the three initiates, or Hermes Trismegistus, teaches you in the Kabbalion. It's the idea that there is correspondence, as above, so below. It's the same as you become what you think about by embodying the answered prayer. That's what we're talking about. Every day we embody a specific answered prayer, whether it's the answered prayer being restriction, separation from our salvation. That is the answered prayer. And it is the same exact use of the life principle as far as us entertaining things, and it leaves an impression. So the life principle is just constantly expressing whatever it is impressed with. It's our decision to decide what it is to impress it with. But most of us do it unconsciously. So we talk about consciousness to come into our being in truth and then start to impress it. And we do that in the form of meditation. So Catherine says, yes, prayer is not beseeching God. Prayer is becoming God, indeed. And we're not talking about God as a being. We're not talking about God as something outside of ourselves that we have to pray to in order to be saved. We're talking about the salvation that comes from the answered prayer as God. And that salvation is only a part of God. The truth of the matter is, what's greater than the salvation is the power to plant the seed that leads to it. It is the power that puts the oasis in the desert. It is the power that places the food in your hands. It is the power that gives you the health that you are feeling. It is the power that puts the money in your bank account and keeps it flowing without any interruption. It is this power that truly is greater than the salvation itself. But we do have this body in order to feel the salvation with great intimacy, and that's a wonderful gift. The vessel of God is a wonderful gift. However, it is not everything. It is the result of our continuous footprint in the kingdom of heaven. As kings and queens in our own right, we are all granted the imagination. Individually, we all have our own dominion. We have our own domain, we have our own kingdom, and it is as expansive and fruitful as you want, and also can be constricted into something that is only for the creation of time in order to place ourselves as victims of external circumstances, also is our kingdom. And we are exercising it in the same way. The subconscious mind does not think of it being good or bad. It simply responds to what is planted in it. All right? Good. Glad you all understand. Thank you, Catherine, for saying beautifully said. Much love. And Darren, thanks for following. Nature Baby, thanks for following. JT says it, man become what he thinketh. As a man thinketh, so shall he become. This is a great book that you can look into, all of you, I suggest. You look into James Allen's As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It's from the early 1900s. I think it's from like 1908 or 1912. And by the way, this was during the time when when Americans were most prosperous. The most prosperous time of being in America was in the early 1900s. Hello, guys. These are beautiful little nuthatches, and they are having a wonderful day today. You know why the nuthatches are so happy? Because they can peck at just about any branch and get food. So they're living in their glory right now, and they're all flying around. They have tons of abundance because the life principle is presenting to them the abundance that is in their truth in being. They peck at the tree delivers food from the vibration that they make with their beautiful evolution, and they have the wonderful kingdom of heaven within, expressing itself, and they're enjoying it. So check out As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. The greatest, most prosperous time for America was the early 1900s. We had so much abundance, and this was before the development of the Federal Reserve and FDIC and the slow degradation of the gold standard. We had so much goods and services and so much production happening that we didn't even know how to spend all the money. What do we spend it on? That was the big question. And so let this be known and understood that things come in cycles. And the great reset that people have spoken about over the last few years actually is a reset of wealth, in that it's going to be exchanging hands from the few to the many, at least in America, and we will be setting the standard as far as goods and services production for the rest of the world. We will be receiving assistance in this from the world, but mainly will be coming from our own infrastructure, which is being rolled out at a massive rate right now in the form of artificial intelligence. So we're at the dawn of a great age of prosperity, and I wouldn't see it any other way. It would only accelerate it faster for you by understanding the truth of what is here now. It's always been here. But anyway, James Allen in As a Man Thinketh, and by the way, when I say man, I'm talking about mana, I'm talking about manifestation. I'm talking about utilizing the intelligence of God for your wish fulfillment. Every human has the imagination, so it's not about men or women, okay? As much as gender has a role in the Kabbalion, it's not so much about I am a man, I am a woman, therefore there's a difference between what I can manifest versus others. No. I think of it as like classes in a video game. Some are support classes, others are tanks, some are in between, some are engineers, some are sappers, some are inventors, some are clerics, others are paladins. But they're really roles that we assign to ourselves, whereas the life principle feeds it equally for everyone. So as a man thinketh, so shall he or she become. What does this really mean? Can someone please give me the answers? I feel confused. It's okay, don't feel confused. Yes. You have an imagination. That is no exception. Every human being has one. And every human being who's tuned in right now, all 45, 44, also woke up this morning. So you woke up this morning. That's meaningful. That's why we say grand rising. At least why I say it is because we were once departed from our body the night before. We come back into consciousness in the morning, granted aliveness in the body, and we are animated into movement. So something decided, this life principle which loves and cares for us, decided we were valuable enough to be given the gift of another day in this game of life. That is a grand rising, because it means we can instantaneously use this beautiful imagination for more manifestation. We still have the power of God within to exercise it however we like. That's a grand rising. So yes, we become what we think about. Now, to drive this home scientifically, because a lot of people like science, and I do too. I'm not docking any of its importance. The idea here is, look into Dr. Bruce Lipton's studies on epigenetics, and then you can start to branch off from there and look into Einstein's theories. You can look into Newton's laws of motion, inertia, the third law of motion, and then inertia. And then you can start to look into Dr. Joe Dispenza's research on epigenetics as well, because he's done a lot of encephalographs and brain scans to show that the cells in the body are changing when we use our imagination to go on vacation from our pain. That it is, in fact, not just an asking that we're doing. We are actually transporting our cells into a whole new environment, and they feel it. And if they are feeling vacation, they are healing on vacation. So feeling vacation means healing vacation for the cells of the body. And you, as the giver and gift of life, in truth, you get to reap the harvest just like you would as a gardener giving the daily footprint walking through, which means you get to present your harvest to every cell in your body as an instantaneous manifestation. For the cell, it has been transported into a place of total wonderment and awe, where it sees the light of creation unfolding before it a brand new reality in existence. That's how I imagine it. I don't think it's detrimental. I think it's beneficial to imagine it that way. That said, it takes some time for the harvest to come through the body and impress itself in this external world. Just like it would take time for you to install a game that you want to play, there has to be an installation period. There has to be its execution and its loading. There has to be a setup of all of the parameters. And then finally you can jump in and start to experience it at high def. Full frame animation and no screen tear. But before all of that happens, you've seen the preview, you've seen the trailers, and you might even have played a demo. One perfect day amongst many challenging days starts to become a demonstration of the truth of your being. And the more that you go into that demo screen and play as if you're playing the final product, the faster it comes to you. Because you've provided an environmental shift, not only for your cells, but for yourself as well. Now the cells feel it instantly. That's what's beautiful as far as us loving ourselves. The cells feel the instant change through epigenetics, but for us, we don't see the results right away in our physical world. In most instances, this is not to say that we don't have instantaneous manifestation. Just as we came through here, another rhythmic marker, I spoke about how some seeds can come about in less than a day. You know, a basil seed can germinate and show its truth with a cotyledon, its first two leaves, within a 24-hour period, if the seed is viable and under the right conditions of loamy soil with plenty of sunlight to warm it into existence. And then you have something like a bamboo tree, which I explained takes about 5 years sitting in the darkness before finally one day it surges forth with power beyond compare and grows at a rate of 1 meter per day. So that's an amazing contrast. But all the same, it's the same life principle. One takes a lot longer, whereas another one is instantaneous. For the gardener, it's all the same. For the one who has control over the planting of seeds, they know this area of the garden is for my love and wish fulfillment in that way. This area of the garden is for my forever building harvest of wish fulfilled money. And success is over here. I have my beautiful estate over here. And I'm just enjoying it in my glory, so as not to bring anyone through until it's fully realized. That's still part of my glory. And that is what is an exercise of faith. So the gardener must exercise faith. The gardener is no different than us in this example of using consciousness or the imagination for manifestation. It's no different than a gardener. And this is the beautiful place where we were talking about this just yesterday. This is a rhythmic pattern. This is a marker. I was explaining to people exactly yesterday, right in this point in time. This is not something that can be rehearsed, but instead is impressed upon me by surrendering. This isn't something that you can just decide to have control over. If I did, it would just fall apart. So we were right here talking about the garden, and I explained to people that the more that you surrender to the entire process by just living as if it's done, the more enjoyable it becomes and the more energy you put directly into it for its expression. Therefore, it accelerates itself into your life because there's no resistance. It has a lot of momentum. So we are gardeners, and so the gardener is walking in every single day. They know they've got, okay, some lettuce seeds over here. This is a lettuce bed. Over here, I've got my basil plants, and I've got my nursery over there where everything's starting to sprout, and I've got it under specific temperatures and conditions of humidity. But if someone were to come through here and you were to say to them, this is my patch of tomato plants, have some harvest for yourself and enjoy, unless they're a 3-year-old where their imagination hasn't been taken away from them yet, they're not going to play along. In fact, what they'll do is they'll probably judge you for being wild or crazy, having an imagination that's out of whack. asking you if you've had your meds yet today. So really, in order for you to exercise faith, you have to become like a child. That's why Jesus says you must become like a child in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within you. And so what you do is you pretend. You fake it till you make it, as it were. You're pretending that your harvest is already here. You're picking the tomatoes and you're enjoying the juicy flavor of it, biting in. You're enjoying the fresh smell of all of your herbs having just been harvested and dried. You're also imagining distributing them to your friends, having a celebration, handing out a bunch of essential oils saying, this is the result of this harvest from this year. Next year, I imagine it being even greater, and even greater after that. Would you like one for your own? Sure. I'll give you a cutting. Here you go. Becomes part of the play. And so you're becoming like a child. But like I said, as adults, it is something that we frown upon. And we say, you have a wild imagination. Oh, here he goes again, talking about his great harvest. Why doesn't he just accept the fact that he'll always be poor? That this does happen to people. People are poor, and they go through these difficulties all the time. And to not just have your head in the sand all the time, because damn it, it causes pain and suffering to everyone around him every time he tells us he's rich when he's not. When I know he's homeless, when I know he's poor, right? But that same person, if in that example I am William as a 46-year-old man about to be 47, if I am 3 years old, or let's just say I'm 2, and I'm saying these things for the first time, everyone's going to be like, you wouldn't believe what he said. First of all, he was talking, which is wild. He was talking, I know, at 2 years old, and he told us all about this garden. Like he's seeing this garden. And we were all there with him. And just today, you wouldn't believe, because we were all playing along, a basil plant just came out of nowhere and is growing in our backyard. You see, if you're a child, you still have that right to exercise the imagination. This staff becomes a lightsaber, etc. But as an adult, the expectation from society is that we abandon the imagination entirely and become in control over our external circumstances by subduing it into submission, by having a plan and a powerful way to plow through, that the world is very treacherous, that everyone is dog eat dog, eye for an eye. There's so much limitation, and it's because we have to work hard in order to earn that money. You got to work hard, and you got to get a good education, and you got to do all these things. And even then, it's still not going to be fair for you, right? Still not going to be fair for you. This is why it's so essential that you pray to the Lord in secret. When you're going into the imagination for your daily exercise, as you're getting your daily footprint right now, you will feel so tempted to want to share this world with people because you are really, in truth, nurturing your inner child, and you are more your inner child than anything else. You will want to share this with the people who you haven't spoken to in a while. You want to tell them about your breakthroughs, tell them about how you're changing, how you're coming into being, and how there's this whole other source that you never realized was there. It's finally presenting itself to you, and it brought you to tears, and it just came haphazardly, like out of nowhere. You just want to share it with the world, because that's also what children want to do. They want to share with the world everything that they dream and think about and believe to be real. But you must pray to your Lord in secret, because the devastation that comes once everyone outside of you, which represents your past, and when it represents your past, it represents you in limitation, starts to hear you talking about how you're wealthy, wish fulfilled, and otherwise perfect health, it will turn against you as if you've betrayed it. It will have no other choice because it fears its own obliteration. What if it can't have a story about you being in lack anymore? What would it then do? It's your past. Do you understand? You must do this in secret. And don't reveal much. I want to know if you're moving forward. I get this question from my mother a lot. I want to know how you're doing. How much did you earn today? How much in sales? Just refuse to talk about it. Sorry, it's not something I feel comfortable talking about with you. Whether that upsets you or not, damned if I do, damned if I don't. You just got to stick to your guns. It's called assertiveness. It's being loving towards your construction of the past while also praying to the Lord in secret anytime you notice a shift that is undesirable. And for me, an undesirable situation in life is being inquired or asked about how things are moving. Because it's a necessary thing for my mother to feel like things are moving. But the moment that things are moving, it's as if it's too much. Because the ego can't deal with people coming into their power. If you truly come into your power, then the ego dies. It no longer has a grip over your life. That's the last thing it wants, is to relinquish control over your life. When it's had total reign over your life for the majority of time until your awakening. From the moment that you accepted your string of frequencies as your name, began the reign of terror that was your ego. It came into power and being. It was all an illusion, but all the same, started believing that it could tell you what you need to do and then you would listen and do it. That it could only know the ways for your salvation and that you had to listen to it and you had to follow through in order to get this salvation. And while this was happening and we believed, of course, because we kept hearing the same stories. You got to work hard to earn money. You got to get a good education. You got to do exactly what mom and dad did. These are the things that work. Listen to me. I've been through it. I've been through the hardship. You may not know all these things because you haven't gone through them as much as I have. This is all life situation. This is all ego. This is all an identity. And what it is more than anything else is just a clever form of trespassing. So when we come into the Lord's Prayer, we understand what it means now to trespass upon another. It's to say, I no longer or I never recognize that this person's an embodiment of God. That's number one. Two, I recognize that they have limitations that can't be overcome. Three, God is outside of myself, thus it must be outside of them. And if they believe God to be within them, it's narcissistic, and it's something that holds no bearing or ground. This is why you don't tell anyone about your stuff. Don't ever do it. Until it is irrefutably manifest. And the moment that it's manifest, you don't even have to say, I told you so. Don't do that. That's not fair. It's devastating to people to say, I told you so. You just show them. You show them the results. And you share them with them. As if it were something that you always planned on doing. Because every time you stepped into those narrow gates, and you prayed in secret, and you never quite shared that harvest, it was because you knew the day of harvest was going to be truly enjoyable, more for the person that would doubt you than for yourself, because you were living the harvest every single time. Becomes just an expectation. It's your truth all along. So it's not so much a surprise. It's a surprise to the world, and that's the I told you so. You don't have to say it. You just show it to them. Okay? All right. Caveman says, love finds us all. Indeed, love is the life principle carrying through consciousness. It's what feeds us our aliveness. Lisa Love is getting this, says exactly 100%. Catherine is doing it too. Catherine says, when we share our shifts in joy, we allow that space for others to do the same for them, just as we. So share the manifestations, but as far as you sharing your garden while it's germinating and gestating into something that's not harvest, I strongly go against it unless this is your most trustworthy life partner. Really, if it's your spouse and you have a sacrosanct agreement and you've had years of trusting one another with your dreams and you're working on them together, that would be the only time. And actually, it's not the only time. The only other time would be when you're sharing play, divine play with your children, which is you're playing pretend. And you explain to your children what this leads to. You immediately put them into their truth and being and power before any other lesson. You explain to them that words matter, and what they do is they impress this world, and we're going to put it to the test. The moment they say, Dad, I've got a runny nose. Can I stop this runny nose? Please help me. What do I do with this runny nose? I just want it to end. Okay. Well, you're talking a lot about the runny nose more than it coming to an end. So all I want you to do is take a deep breath, and I want you to imagine being perfect. Can you do that? You do it all the time, every day. You play a superhero or a heroine. You can certainly imagine yourself being perfect health, right? Let's just do this for fun. And then they get into the role. Oh, I want to have this weapon, or I want to have this ability. Okay, you're firing lightning from your hands? Great, fire me with lightning. And they shoot you with lightning. You go, oh, I'm getting hit with the lightning. Oh. Then you're roughhousing. And the next thing you know, you don't have to remind your child and say, I told you so, until the moment is perfectly evident that they've recovered from their runny nose. And they go, whoa, you're right. It is gone. I wasn't even thinking about it. Of course you weren't thinking about it, because you were doing what you loved. The condition was health that you wanted all along. Big lesson. Big lesson. And your children can feel it. That's the best part. And if they feel it, it leaves an impression. And that impression will never leave them, no matter what the world says to them, no matter what kind of indoctrination, no matter how abysmal the opinion comes from the external world, it will never shatter that experience, because they had it, they manifest it, and they know where it comes from. That's how you empower your children. And that's how we eradicate limitation from humanity. It has to come from these seeds. My children understand it. It's why I have so much happiness through faith. People can say, oh, they're at a far distance from you. You have no idea who they're with. Nah, that doesn't move me so much as they're with me. Right here. Hanging with me. Saying, Dad, look what I found over here. Crazy rock. Oh, show me, guys. Can you ID what that is? If you ID what that is, you get $5. $5? Wait, I want to find a stone? Yeah. I am educating my children, and I'm giving them a benefit. If they can ID a stone correctly, they get paid. Instead of go make your bed so you can get your chores done and you can make your allowance. No. It's if you're interested in knowing what something is and you can show me what it is before I tell you, then you get paid. Because that's true education. That's how it works. You think they're ever going to forget that? They immediately have become an entrepreneur right then and there. And they start to believe that anything is possible, not just with their body through health, but anything they want to manifest. If they want money, they're going to learn something, and they're going to show that to me so that I learn something, and then I pay them for the education they've given me. And this is why kids love me, because they know it's going to be a benefit no matter what we do. He's either going to do something goofy, he's either going to roughhouse with us, or he's going to pay us for learning something that we haven't known before. And we're going to race to get the answers before anyone else. And if one person feels left out, he's going to be the one that gets the biggest reward. That's how it works. The one kid who looks the most left out, I'm going to come over and say, what's the matter? Don't tell me. Hold on a second. Caballito. Up on the shoulders, and it's the one child that gets to be carried around in caballito. That's how it works. Whatever child is in duress, they don't have what they want. You can see it. They're trying to explain to you something. Just give them love. That's all you have to do. Give them attention and give them love and give them mobility. Give them education. Give them a challenge. Give them a course that they can carry out on their own through interest, and they will find their way. Okay? Lisa loves this. She's laughing. And Liz222 says, I love this. Thank you. Oh, Liz, that's wonderful. So happy. User 588-9957905310 says, love it. Awesome. Jimmy G, thanks for the bolt of lightning. There it is. I got hit by it a while ago. I'm just now getting caught up with it. Tammy Louie, thank you for the heart me. Oh, it says, your team has completed the first stage of the team quest. Team Cheers has been unlocked for all team members to send and celebrate. What if you said that to your children? It's like, okay, the game is on. Let's play the game. We all want games. Catherine Align says, I do the same play and share the needs with all. We're all children at heart. I've seen the fruits of this practice. For me to feel the difference is sharing when I'm in alignment, and I feel joy in sharing. It's so beautiful. Oh, here comes this is wild synchronicity. Here comes the CAPTCHA. This is the exact same place where I did the CAPTCHA 2 times within the last week. It happens right in this spot once again. Another form of rhythm, because the universe is rhythmic. We are seeking the rhythm of life. We want to take part in the song. And so that is basically what's being said by all of you. To become like a child, you must fall into your imagination with complete faith and believe that it has power. So much that you entertain it all the time because it gives you more joy, living in the now, instantaneously fulfilled, than having to worry about when is this thing coming that I desire and want. So, unless the desire is overwhelming for a person, I love the waiting, I love being in despair, not knowing where the answers are. And it sounds foolish, but it has benefit because it's a feeling, right? We might just want to change from the status quo, which is a feeling of nothingness, might want to feel some change. So we want the excitement of change, but we also want to feel like we're benefiting ourselves and others in some way. That's the real gold. So we are seeking out the thrill, the excitement, because that's what this world is. We are creatures of feeling. Human beings are definitely addicts of feeling, and I say that in the best way. So we're constantly looking for that shift, and we'll go for it any way we can. That's just who we are. The bottom line is, if you can come to a place where you're satisfied with the imagination's delivery, then you are fulfilled already, and you will be totally surprised, but you don't have to count on it. The divine expectancy is the divine expectancy is the fact that your imagination is always available to you. That's the only thing you should ever have expectations with. My imagination is ready for me. I can step into it anytime. No one can take it away from me unless I will it. So it's always available to me becomes the only expectation you ever need to have of anything. What's beautiful about it is you have the expectation within you. It's of something within you, rather than something that you're without, that is outside of you. That's where we get in trouble. When we start to have expectations of things outside of us, we start to become slaves to it. We don't want to become slaves to the things outside of us. Grandma is inviting me. I'm going to do it. Thank you, Grandma.
I don't want to battle with him. Hey!
Grandma! It's great to see you
I
too.
just wanted to talk.
I know that. That's why I accepted. You're the only one I would accept an invite from.
Oh,
Truthfully.
thank you. That makes me feel so honored. Let me turn my
I am honored.
echo. Turn down music.
How you doing
I
today?
am doing fantastic.
You have the brightest, most beautiful smile.
Oh, thank you. So do you. You always make my day.
Thanks.
You always make my
Thank you,
day.
Grandma. Thank you so much.
I love getting on here, and I'm glad you talked to me. You're out in the outdoors. I love it outdoors. And it looks like a beautiful day.
Oh, it's divine. It's actually spring is coming, and we're here in New England, so I know that you probably have better conditions. You're in California, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's so nice today, Grandma. So nice.
It is. Mine is nice sun. I don't know if you can see the sun shining through there, but
Oh yeah, I see it. It's
it
beautiful.
is beautiful. I wish I was outdoors.
Yeah, it's awaiting you, as they say.
Yes, it is. Spring is in the air soon, and I will be out there painting.
Oh, nice. What are you going to be painting?
I paint by numbers. I take way out.
Well, it's like a mosaic, right? Isn't that how everything works? One step at a time?
I'll show you what I do.
Yeah,
this is
let's
one of my paintings.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful.
This is the paint by number.
It's gorgeous.
And, I give them away.
You do.
I sign them and give them away on my lives.
That is brilliant. Beautiful.
It's my what do you call it?
Your
My
calling?
calling, yeah. My calling, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. was such it is such a pleasant surprise to be here with you. I'm just so grateful
Me
for you.
too. Me too.
Really.
Me too. I wasn't sure you'd accept or not. I wasn't sure you'd accept or not. We just got off a terrible battle. We just got off a terrible battle. They get over on here, and then he muted me. He muted me.
No, man. It's why I refuse to accept them, unless it's you.
Well, thank you.
It's the idea. The idea is it's like, I talk about it too, how it doesn't feel good to be in competition with people. Eventually it kind of turns in a way. But of course it feeds us aliveness and feeds us livelihood. We get paid for it too. So there's some benefit to that. And we're used to working for that,
It's friends
going
helping
for it.
friends. It's friends helping friends.
Yes, it is. That's true. But if someone mutes you, it's like, I think it's been taken too personally.
Right. I told I only have 5 people in here. But my followers are wonderful. All the battles I've been in, I've won.
Really?
Yes.
I sense a little bit of a challenge.
I know. Do you want to challenge me? Do you want to challenge me? You'll probably kick my ass.
I don't want to. That's not a win.
Okay. That's okay. I'm a good loser. It's the fun.
You want to do one for fun? Do you really want to do it? This is the only time I will ever do it. This is the one and only time.
And I don't care who wins.
And by the way, if anyone in my chat gives anything to me, you will be muted.
No. This is going to be a fair battle. You fight the best you can fight, and it's for fun. And it's for fun.
So this is like Street Fighter, right? We're just going to pretend like we're playing a video game.
We're just having fun. I think the followers like it.
Okay, let's try it. I'm in, but just one. Just one.
Okay. Solo match, send invites.
All right, here we go, everybody. It's on. Grandma and I are battling to the death.
Yeah.
Virtually.
One time only.
Oh, so Jeffrey's asking me to do an affirmation Street Fighter. I'm going to say, okay, Grandma and I are divinely prospered. We are in source energy right now, and we are bringing into our lives all of our wish fulfillment in the now. No delays.
In the now. Yes. Immortal Arts and I are a team player. We don't play against each other. We play with each other. Well, that sounds weird. We work as a team.
That's still playing together.
Yeah.
So tell me this in truth. Is there anything that you can think of that you truly want to have manifest now? That you can think of that would make you happy?
My brother's health is to get better.
Okay, so everyone, I want you to imagine Grandma's brother in perfect health right now. This is the way that you're tapping the screen with great power.
Yes.
So can you imagine what would be his favorite activity if he was in perfect health right now? And he is in perfect health.
He's a Jehovah's Witness, so he is with the church. So total opposite of me. But in our beliefs, mine. But he would be out there doing his church thing, and with his new wife.
Okay. So he has a new wife, and he is a man of faith and service.
Yes, and look at
and he's also in perfect health.
And he is going to be in perfect health. He's going to be upright, and he's going to be giving me a bad time because I'm going to be the first loser. So I win.
It's true, in this world, love wins.
It does. And my heart is so filled with love. And I can see yours too. And your eyes just sparkle with it.
Thank you, Grandma.
And
I needed this today.
Yeah. Thank you.
I didn't realize I needed it.
I thank you. I need water.
Hydrate.
Definitely need to hydrate. I am on day. I've had one partake. Last night. I had a day. But other than that, I've been 423 for a week now.
Whoa, this is a big thing, isn't it?
That is a big thing for me. Very big.
And so, what have you noticed as difference? Like, how do you feel?
I'm not as friendly or
talkative. Is that a sad thing?
That's a sad thing.
You know, just yesterday I was talking a lot about the endocannabinoid system. I talk about it a lot because, you know, the plant has grown with us. It's evolved with us.
Right, and it has so many benefits. And
Yep, sure does.
Health. I think I stay as healthy as I am because of it. But the drawback is I was using the beads, you know, the pendulums. It killed my lungs.
I've heard those things too.
It wiped out my lungs, so now I am on edibles only.
Got it. And now that also takes some time to activate, correct?
Very much. Correct.
So you have to kind of plan out in advance.
Definitely. Yeah. And then I do more of it thinking I need more, waiting for that instant gratification, and then an hour later I'm like,
Your body's saying, don't make any plans.
Your body's saying, you're not thinking. I don't have two brain cells between me, you know. It is so good to see you, Mort.
Oh, Grandma, it's the best. You know, in the last thing I'll say about this is like, for me, it helps with forgetfulness. And you know, I don't say that as a negative.
No.
What I mean by it is it helps me with overcoming things that would be overwhelmingly stressful.
Wow, you have 548. Dude.
Holy moly. Liz just sent over a big manifesting. Liz 222. That big props for Liz. Liz, you're out of this world. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Liz is amazing.
Thank you, Liz.
Liz is amazing.
That is so awesome. Hey, BBW. I think I got this one gone. This one's too late. And we're only doing one because we wanted to have fun and give you guys a chance to show what you got. And just to share.
Thank you, Grandma.
You're welcome.
So, you know, I'm imagining your brother in perfect health.
Yeah. It says the winning host may propose funny tasks for the losing host to complete during the victory lap. Are you going to do a victory lap?
Walk around in circles.
Whoa. I'm spinning.
You know, part of me like really wishes I had my own little gummies right now so we could enjoy some time together in that way.
But, we'll have to do it another time. I'm going to let you get back to your followers. And
thank you, Grandma. I love you. I just want you to know
and
this.
I love your ideas, your concept, and your beliefs. So
thank you. You too. You are divine. Thank you, Grandma.
Bye.
Bye.
I gotta figure out how to get you out of here.
Me too. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, that was fun. Liz coming through with the big donation. Thank you, Liz. That was incredible. And welcome, everyone. That's something that we'll probably never do again. And only because it was Grandma Pokey, who is I'm very fond of her. Very fond of Grandma Pokey. She's been through a lot, and she's just a really divine, good person. Yeah, she does have great energy. Says user 588-9957-905-310. So we had a lot of dopamine. That was a big dopamine dump, everybody. Marine Ironworkers, best dad ever, says that was cool. Tammy's sending over a peace sign. PTD65 says, ever heard of CHs? And if it's really a genetic thing, tell us about this PDT, excuse me. If you could tell us more about this so I can respond in turn, okay? Michelle Sparkles, thanks for the follow, says, I just walked into a familiar room without ever being here. Oh, Michelle. That is so sweet. That's such a sweet thing to say. You must be a writer. Liz, thanks again for that incredible donation. It was not expected and it was not necessary, and you were so kind, and you are so generous and so kind. Tammy, thank you. All the folks who are tapping the screen, playing Street Fighter. Oh, she needed that win. Oh, that was a beautiful way to say it, Joe. That's so nice. You know, we all got a win from it. And, you know, at the end of the day, I am a gamer. So we did a little Street Fighter. It was fun. But, at the end of the day, Grandma Pokey is a divine creation. She is an embodiment of an infinite intelligence, and certainly more than her identity, just as we all are. And yeah, she's really funny to talk with too. She's usually likes to get pretty baked, which is hysterical sometimes. It was like the first time I discovered this, Grandma Pokey. She was pretty baked, and it was very funny. Veda Vortex says we love it. It's not a judgment at all. It was just very, very awesome. Marine Iron Worker says to Michelle, feel the same, jumped over there to tap for her. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. And Michelle Sparkle says, I want to follow her. Please go follow her. Her name is Grandma Jima Pokey. Jima Pokey. She's awesome. Really. We have this kind of, we have a very unique connection. A lot of her life situations are very much based in loss. And we have a very intrinsic familial connection to each other, whatever it is. It's energetic. I don't know how, but it's certainly familial, which is cool. Yeah, all right. Jeffrey says, I just tapped. Tapping the whole time. Well, I see we got a lot of likes from that. Actually, it was pretty wild. Sunflower Goddess Infinite says, peace and blessings, everyone. Sunflower, it's really nice to see you here. And Beta Vortex, good to see you. A gamer on Twitch. I think, is Grandma Pokey a gamer on Twitch? I didn't know that. But I could see that. And I used to do some Twitch, but it was a long time ago, and I love video games. That's one thing that most people probably don't know about me. I love video games. Oh, here's a serpentinite. This is a crazy serpentinite. Let me show you this stone. This is a biggie. All right. Let's get this with some liquid on it. I'm going to show you how this opens up once you get it wet. Look at the color on this serpentinite. Sometimes these are radioactive, so I'm not going to go too crazy with rubbing them. Yeah, they're known to be radioactive stones. So, that is a serpentinite. That's a biggie. It's really deep in the ground. Oh, Veda says, I stream on Twitch, so I was gonna follow. Nice. Veda, I'm giving you a follow. Everyone give Veda a follow. What games do you play, Veda? Yeah, that's a big serpentinite right there. It's a good... You see how it looks like, the scales or the skin of a serpent? That is a wild one. It's a big one. Big snake stone. Yes. Ash says, please, did you see my question about labyrinth? Okay, I didn't see it yet. What's your opinion on numerology? We'll talk about that too, Jimmy. Michelle loves the color of it. It's a beautiful color. Yeah, sometimes they're radioactive, which can actually be good. What was the question that came in? I'm scrolling through here to where the battle was, so I must have missed the question, Ash. Could you ask it again, please, Ash? Thank you. Why would someone draw a labyrinth and not remember it? Is this a trick question? I'm not sure. I think I'm missing one of the pages in the book, though. I want to read it. Tell me more. Joe says you need to battle to put more happiness energy and manifestations out there. I guess with Grandma Pokey would be the only exception. So Jimmy asks, what is your opinion on numerology? Jimmy, I have a large affination or alignment with numerology. I've spent a lot of years just studying it and putting a lot of attention into it. So it's left a big impression on my subconscious mind to where I use it. And so I'm assuming that you would want to learn more about it. And I can tell you the basics. We can go through the numbers 0 through 9. And if you want more, we can always go deeper. So numerology is basically the study of reducing any number to a single digit. Okay? In most instances, it's the reduction to a single digit. And where that digit is either a range, it's any number between 0 and 9. Okay? Any integer that is a single digit integer. An example of this would be, let's say we have the number 11. That is a 2-digit number. So you need to then, in order to break it down numerologically, you would take the 1 plus 1, and then you would get 2, and that would be its reduction. And then the number 2 has a meaning. So what I'll do is I'll give you the key, which is the meaning of all the numbers from 0 through 9. And you can apply this, at least I've applied it in a number of ways for relationship advice. I've applied it for when I need to interact with someone at work, what our resting energies would be. And of course, this is leaving suggestions on the subconscious mind. So know that this numerological system is based on faith, right? The more faith you have in any system, the more it impresses itself upon your world, and you start to see what would be considered proof of it working, right? So it really comes down to, once again, using God's infinite power to leave an impression and have it manifest before you. But we have all, as humans, been using the numbers 0 through 9 for however long, and it's the first language to ever exist. As far as a symbolic language, the first language for humanity, aside from music, which is a language, but the first written symbolic language is numerological or numbers-based. So it has a great impression on the collective consciousness of humanity. And we've associated a lot of feelings with it. And of course, it runs our entire monetary system. So it has a lot of weight through entertainment, which is why it applies well. If you adopt it only for the good, rather than to see yourself restricted by it in some way or feeling fearful of it. It's not a fear-based system. It shouldn't be. Nothing should be a fear-based system, in truth. Excuse me. So, let's get into it. Veda, thanks for the share. So, Ash says, why would someone draw a labyrinth and not remember it? Just found the drawing, so I'm confused too. Which labyrinth are you referring to? Is it one that we saw through... Was it the painting by Grandma Pokey that you're referring to? Or is it another one that you've witnessed? You can tell me more about it. But I do feel left out until I understand. And that's okay. I don't mind being left out. Okay, so let's get into this. Number 0. 0 is a wild one because you have the infinite source of creation within it. So think of 0 as everything and nothing at the same time. Think of it as the Ouroboros, which is the snake, which is head eats the tail. So you have the masculine and feminine elements in union, creating an infinite source that also serves as nothingness. Okay? So 0, if you apply it to any number to the right of it, if it's to the left of a decimal point, it increases its perceived value. And the more that you add it to the right of a decimal point, the more it decreases its value as far as the extreme in decimals. So what's really interesting is you have a point, which is a point of creation, and 0's expression to the left in front of any number increases its perceived value. And increasing its amount to the right of the decimal point apparently decreases its value. So it's presented to duality all the time, while at the same time represents everything and nothing, right? You can multiply something times 0, and it then somehow reduces it to nothing. So it uses the infinite power for its reduction to nothingness. It's a reset button. So you think of 0 as a reset button. It either increases the order of magnitude or it decreases it by an order of magnitude, depending on the side that it's on. This is a pretty wild concept, this 0. Okay? And in most cases, you talk to people about numerology, you could say, okay, most of these numbers, if not all of them, are associated with a specific card in the tarot. So what is that card? And that card is the Fool. It's also referred to as the Joker. It's the Wild card. It's the card that can add value at the same time. It can also detract. It's everything and nothing, and it represents the consistent leaps of faith that we take in our life experience. That would be 0. Okay? All right. Let's get into 1. 1 is brilliant because it represents a dimensional shift where we have infinite zeros coming together to form a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a line. So what the line represents is the first form of construct. It's a seed, right? Isn't the first form of construct the seed? It's what precedes all things aside from source itself. So when we're looking at number 1, we're looking at the seed. It also represents the sun. You will see that it represents the sun, and the sun was once believed to be a creative planet of 7 that are considered the classical planets. And we will be talking about those 2, okay? And in the case of 0, it could be referred to as Mother Earth itself, or Malkuth, though some would say that that is another number and can even be 108, all right? 1 as the seed, 0 as everything and nothing, or infinite intelligence or source, and 8 being infinity, upright, the hourglass, but when you turn the hourglass to its side, it becomes the infinity sign. Because time doesn't move, right? If you have sand and it's going in one direction or the other of your hourglass, which is an 8, you turn that on its side, that sand no longer moves, and you have a suspension of time. That is infinity. Infinity, or the imagination, is not just a suspension of time, but it's its absence. It's its total absence, okay? All right, but that's getting ahead of things. We're going to talk about number 1. It's the seed, it's the line, it's an infinite number of points with a beginning, middle, and end. It's the first expression of a construct, of something existing, something collapsing from an infinite source into being. That would be number 1. Okay? Because it is whole. It is something that is unified. It represents a singular concept or thing. It's either everything or nothing, but it can't be both at the same time. That's 0's domain, is everything and nothing at the same time, okay? Let's get into 2. So 2 starts to become a bit more complex. The duality of things. You have left and right. Once again, the decimal point shows you what happens on the left side with 0s, and on the right side with 0s tends to have an opposite reaction. So with 2, we are introducing the idea of polarity, or hemispheres, or axes, or positive and negative, that which creates light in the middle, a charge. For many who are studying number 2, they consider it the subconscious mind, the womb of creation, thought itself, okay? So you can refer to it as the moon, the emotional side of things, that which we feel, has all these forms of association with the number 2, okay? You could also think of it dimensionally as a square. And in order to have the square, you have 4 lines that come into equal angles. They're linear and they are right-angled. And they form into a higher dimensional construct, a 2-dimensional construct of opposing forces coming into unity with one another to create something greater than the sum of its parts. That would also be 2 L's coming together. So you would have 2 forms of lines, one that is facing upward and the other a 7 facing downward, and they come together to create that framework, which is a square. That would be the duad, duality. And that comes from 2, dual, right? Dual, duo, duality, dos, right? Okay, so now we come into 3. And when we come into 3, we start to finally introduce this element of Trinity, the triangle, the 3-angle, the thrice, okay? The triplet, or the triad. And in order to have a triad, you have to have a combination of not just the opposing forces, but you have to also introduce the infinite. It serves as an apex point. And that is the basic foundation for all things that are 3-dimensional. And so the number 3, in essence, it represents depth. It represents expansion. And you would notice it being associated with the god of gods, Zeus or Jupiter. So it's referred to as the largest, the great, thrice king. You could talk about Hermes in that way, even though he represents Mercury in a number of ways. You would see the triad being this introduction of the life principle or consciousness to that which was once dual. And what you get from that is the actual framework and foundation of 3-dimensional space, which comes in the form of a triangle before you introduce the construct of frequency. In order to have frequency, you need to introduce the number 4. Number 4 gives you the spiritual aspect of creation. And when I say spirit, I mean the breath. So the breath of life could be referred to in the number 4. The planet associated with it in numerology is Uranus, which is a chaotic planet that cannot be controlled under any conditions. The more you try to control number 4, the more it turns on you, because it's the actual framework of existence itself. So it can't be modified or messed with. And if you try to, it throws things and spirals it into chaos. So it's a beautiful energy in that way, that it can't be controlled. You will also see numerological reduction into the number 4 from the number 13. So 13 and 4 correspond to one another. Why? Because you have 1, which is the seed, and 3, which is expansion in Trinity, coming together to give you a construct with framework. 4. The numerological reduction of 13 also plays a role in renewal, in frequency, and boundaries, okay? This is why it's referred to in the Tarot, number 4, as the Emperor. In the major arcana, the Emperor is the one who sets the boundaries, the one who cannot be bent into rule by anyone or anything, and will blaze through you if you challenge its construct itself, because it's set at perfect right angles, forming into a construct that gives us perception of life. So it can't be messed with. It's a standard, okay? It is a standard. That's number 4. All right, let's get into number 5. Oh, is this a hematite? Let's take a look. Nope, that's a basalt. Okay, let's get into number 5. We're going through, for those who are coming in today, right now we are discussing numerology. It was a question that came in. So I'm just talking to everyone about my concept, my understanding of numerology, and how I apply it, and how it's built itself into my life as a construct. That's all. You can apply it in any way that you desire, of course, through your freedom in the imagination, without feeling like I'm trespassing on your existence. That would be the best way to go about it. Okay? Number 5. So 5 represents travel, movement through this construct of bounds. It represents the word, frequency coming and going. It represents the indication that there is a beginning, middle, and end, but does not represent time as much as the movement of time. So just as you would have a ripple, if I were to take a stone like this, if I were to take this quartz stone, and I would look at this pool, obviously there's running water, but if I throw this in, creates a ripple, and those ripples will expand and move, right? That dispersion of energy can't be contained, but you can observe it, okay? Just as you can't contain that which moves the water through, you can observe it. So that represents Mercury. It's something that you can observe, but you can't bottle it up or try to contain it. The moment that you do, you are just misusing your energy. It's like saying I can calm this pool of water if I just slap it around and try to iron it. That's Alan Watts' example. You can't iron it into peace because it has inertia. And that is a law presented by Newton that represents the laws of the universe. Anything that has inertia will continue unless it's interfered with. And how can you interfere with something that can't be bottled but shows itself as expressed? Just like you can't bottle up the stream and say, I bottled the stream. You could bottle up some water, some droplets from it, but you can't bottle the power that moves it. You could say, I've bottled up inertia, but you really can't. You've interfered with inertia. You haven't bottled it and you haven't contained it. So number 5 works in that way. It is the force that gives movement. And so you will see the number 5 is associated with commerce, with travel, with the flow of words, and with the flow of energy. It's also, as you could tell, influenced by the moon cycles, because the moon cycles are also causing changes to the tides on this body of this mass called Earth, right? So as much as the moon is affected by number 2, Mercury is affected by the moon, so number 5 is also affected by the moon. Now you take 2 and 5, you put it together, you're going to get Neptune. Neptune is the deep, profound spiritual, and it also represents, as number 7, heaven. This idea of completeness in a divine state. But we can't get to number 7 from 5 without approaching number 6. So number 6 represents the unity and perfection between the masculine and the feminine principle. If you think of 2 triangles, both with 3 points, they come together and form what you would recognize as the symbol of the Star of David. Actually, if you were to join those points of the Star of David, you would get a hexagon. Hex and 6, one and the same. So anytime you see hex, you know this to be 6, just like you would hear pent, like pentagon, pentagram, whatever it is, that represents 5, okay? And quad represents 4, and tri represents 3, and duad or duo represents 2, and mono or monad represents 1, okay? So number 6 represents Venus, and it is the planet of love, creative expression, friendship, music, the arts. Veda asks, would you call it expansion? Is this 6? Forgive me, I was really on a monologue there. Violet Willow Moon, thanks for following. User 8355506982040, thanks for sharing. And Divine Mother, great to see you always, and thank you for this blessing. I am, thank you for following. That's awesome. Oh, okay, so Ash is saying, you just found the drawing. So whatever that is, it's, the bottom line is this, Ash. It's just a narrative, and I think we can find the most value from recognizing that it's a story, and whatever the story is, it's being fed by an aliveness. Just like every stone in this stream is a story in itself. The labyrinth is one of them. However, it is a part of the stream, and the stream, over time, will refine its qualities by smoothing them out. So the more that you entertain Source, the more you become, or go from being a diamond in the rough to a polished, faceted gemstone. And this goes for anything, including the stories that we entertain. The more we entertain them, the more we refine them. So as long as you keep entertaining it, more reveal will come to you. And probably less definition from that. Definition is like the edges or the points of the stone that get smoothed out over time. And of course, the Source provides that smoothing. It's often not observable until someone else sees it. That's how we go through our own refinement in life. Thought Ripple, thank you for following. Ash says, I am being censored. Well, it is also a narrative, and it serves as a form of refinement and a smoothing of the edges, which is basically pain relief. Pain relief is the smoothing of edges, right? Have you ever felt something smooth that didn't feel smooth and good? There's a reason why it's called smooth. It's because it's free of edges and points that could otherwise cause damage, and it just feels easy, like Sunday morning, as it were. A-Town says, that is beautiful, serene. I'm glad you like it, A-Town. Great to see you again. My Heart Space says, you guys should find your life number. What he's describing will apply to you, and we will talk about this. So I mentioned briefly, as we're talking about numerology right now, we are now on number 7 because 6 represents the creative element of life. It's also known as a consequence-free energy, and it is in balance. It is masculine and feminine energy, not only in unity, but also in balance. It represents the lovers in the tarot. It could also be reduced from number 15, which people would say, well, that represents the devil in the tarot. How could the unity of man and woman be the devil? And if you look at the devil, its image in the tarot is quite scary for most people in the beginning. It leaves an impression of fear because you're looking at a figure that is basically Baphomet, and we have that association of it being fear-inducing, and I'm not at all foreign from that feeling even to this day. But what I understand is it represents illusion. You see chains around the man and woman to the left and right of this symbol, and those chains are loosely fit, which explains that the burdens of our life are self-imposed, but not imposed upon us as victims. We rather place them on and create a story around them as permanent, that can't be removed. This devilish character has some ownership over us as divine beings, is the belief system that most people have. And if we don't follow the orders of society in accordance to indoctrination, we will somehow suffer or be in lack. And so the way you get through that is you unify with both the masculine and feminine principle. You understand that creation is a result of our own decision, not something that's imposed upon us. Thus you look through the illusion, you come in unity with the two, masculine and feminine, and you come into power and being in that way. So it reduces once again to the lovers. Once you see through the illusion and all the story of life, we start to refine the edges into a smooth surface, which is faceted in the form of truth. This goes for anything that we doubt. We are effectively tumbling the stone and trying to reform it into something that serves us. And that's what's happening all the time with Source. Not a single stone is an exception here. Some of it might be exposed to the air. It's going to go through its own experience, but all the stones that are subject to the stream here are no different than every human being exposed to the life principle that is Source. It refines you. So we come in now to number 7, which is Neptune. It's the profound spiritual. It's your intuition. It is Godhead. It's the understanding that we are more consciousness and this source of aliveness than the stones within. And that any animation that comes from this source is, in fact, self-imposed because we decided to collapse into existence here. We decided to be a part of the stream. Whether it fell from this alluvial deposit on the side of the hill does not matter. Whether this was spewed from a volcano, it's the same. It's part of the stream. So it helps you to understand that your origins aren't as important as that which fuels the ability to have origins. That which fuels the idea to have story comes from this Neptunal energy. And it represents the deep spiritual, the profound depths of things. And it's tied to wealth, Jupiter, it's tied to water and the deep sea, and it also has some elements to travel. As you can see, this stream is moving. Grandma Pokey, thanks for those roses, Grandma Pokey, and it was so nice being with you today. And it is so nice being with you. Book of Eli, thanks for following. Morgan Land Maintenance is here. It says it's the most wonderful time of the day. It's the most wonderful time of the day. Thank you very much, Morgan Land Maintenance. Very nice of you to say. Indeed, Grandma Pokey, it's so nice seeing you. So we're talking about numerology for those who are joining in, and where we are now is we're discussing the numbers 1 through 9 and how that has an associated meaning to the human life experience just through its repetition of use. It now has an imprint on the subconscious mind which expresses itself through us. And that's where we're getting to. You could also talk about it as this is Rosicrucian Kabbalah. You could define it as it's something good or bad, whatever it is. But when we're talking about numbers, we're talking about the first symbolic language. It's the first language to ever take on symbols of meaning that we could observe outside of ourselves and interpret it as having meaning. And of course, we pull all of these symbols in truth from the sky, right? We pull them from the constellations. So every number that has ever that's come about, the 0 through 9, has come from constellations in one way or another. So we take all of this system from the sky, which is really cool, in truth. And so Ash says, Grandma Pokey, sorry about leaving your live. I'm here. Okay, it's all good. We're all together. Chad Clemens followed. Thank you, Chad. And Veda, this was cool, says, I was singing when that got pinned. That is synchronicity. So now we come into number 8. It's a quite profound number. When you look at the number 8, you have the joining of two numbers, 6 and 9. Of course, the two of those together would give you 15, which talks more to illusion, which I already discussed with the number 6, because 15 reduces to 6. The math is simple. You take 1 plus 5, it gives you 6. But when we're talking about the number 8, we're talking about the flip side of 6 and 9 coming together and unifying, thus creating this closed circuit that seems to overlap in a way that is toroidal or beyond 3 dimensions. There's a point in time in the 8 that is centered, that represents something beyond the dimensions that we can witness here as humans in 3 dimensions. And it's also could be considered, instead of a 6 and 9 coming into union, it could be 2 circles coming into union that are actually rubbing against one another. If you could imagine 2 stones constantly spinning until they wear down all their edges, and in the center create this perfect spark in unity. So number 8 can represent unity in this spark as an infinite sign. So if you're thinking of the infinite like this, it would be planar or horizontal. And if you're thinking of the universe like this, it would be the infinite in a vertical way. And really the only difference between the two, it's quite significant, but the only difference between the two is that the standing up 8, which we recognize as the number itself, represents the flow of time. Think of it as an hourglass, okay? You have sand in it, and it's pouring through the center location, which is the present moment. This is consciousness, and it is flowing into something that has already occurred. the past. So you have something that is yet to occur, the sand above, you have the present moment, and then you have that which has already occurred being below it. But at the same time, we have correspondence, as above, so below. You turn that, and you suddenly have a reset. This gives you the cycle of life. This is why the number 8 is associated not only with time, but also with harvest. It represents the coming and going of seasons and its rejuvenation through seed to harvest, okay? And it represents Saturn. Saturn being the planet of time. Its association with time and harvest, okay? So Saturn, number 8, represents the infinite, which is time standing still on its side. Becomes the infinite sign. This is the 8 turned right here horizontally. Therefore, the sands of time of past and future no longer sway or have any sort of coming and going. And the focus becomes the centered point. That is the eternal now. You take the two of those and you bring them together, and you can start to formulate the flower of life. A fractal design coming from ancient Egyptian lore, too. You can see the use of both the upstanding 8 and the side standing infinite coming together with a centralized point, and that gives you a foundation of a fractal design. Or it gives you a 4-leaf clover. But it represents control over the infinite source of creation, okay? And so that explains number 8. Now we come to number 9. I usually say that number 9 represents the repeater of energy. So it's a repetitive energy. It's associated with the planet Mars. And the way that I associate it, the way I associate it is, I think of the Mars energy as the energy that allows the seeds that sprout under the earth to come forth with a spear-like energy and break the surface of the earth itself. So it's the force that breaks through barriers. And when mismanaged, it can turn and burn the bridges that we have crossed. So what number 9 needs is that compassion and love, its counterbalance. And so those who have an affinity or an alignment with number 9 tend to have a lot of energy. You know, the Aries signs make good lawyers and police officers because they have this abundance of energy, and it's requiring balance, and the way that it's found is through its exhaustion, through its use, its expenditure. So number 9 represents a cycling of energy. The actual force that's required for its movement is coming from number 9. And that explains every number that is a single-digit number from 0 to 9. And we have this recorded, so you can find this in detail, and you can watch it as many times as you want on YouTube. And the link is in my bio. So the question then becomes, okay, now we understand what every number means by association, that these numbers actually come from the constellations in the sky and what we've observed. It's the first symbol of language, numbers. But how does this apply to life? How can it apply? How can it be of use? So the first thing that I would turn to is, what is the energy that you share with someone else? That's a fun one. And it's very simple. The way that I've been taught is you take the number of the month, not the actual number in sequence, but the number within the month that you were born, and you blend it with somebody else's number within the month that they were born. In my instance, it would be the 5th, so number 5. Then again, it could also be the 14th for someone, because there's a 14th digit in the monthly cycle. It would be 1 plus 4 gives you 5. And of course, you're starting to figure this out now. You could also be born on the 23rd. So the 23rd would also be a 2 plus 3 gives you 5. And all of these would reduce to 5 numerologically. Okay? So the way that you find your shared energy between people, which is essentially the day that you were planted as a seed and started to express yourself in your aliveness of being in a perpetual cycle of consciousness, but you landed at a certain point on that season, whatever year you were born. That was the time that you came into expression. You became harvested into life. And so whatever the number is of someone else, you take that number, you do the same thing that we did before. Let's say someone's born on the 14th, which is my son. Actually, my physical son was born on the 14th, so I can take his number. 1 plus 4 gives me 5, and I take my number, which is also a 5, and I put them together, and that gives us 19. 1 plus 9 gives us 20. 1 plus 9 gives 10. And 10 reduces to 1 plus 0. Gives you a 1. So at the end of the day, the 14 plus the 5 gives you 19. 1 plus 9 gives you 10. 1 plus 0 gives you 1. It reduces to a 1. That's the actual energy that I share with my son. So between my son and I, you could say that we share the sun from the tarot, which is 19. We share the wheel of fortune, which is number 10. And we share the magician, which is 1. So it is an amplified energy that my son and I share because it equals 19, 10, and 1. It has a lot to do with health, happiness, childlike expression, wish fulfillment, an upswing in prosperity and ability. And at the end of the day, it falls into correspondence as above, so below with the magician. All of these elements I share with my son. So how would I know how to appreciate my son? I see it all the time with him. He's a love. He's a little love. Of course, he's a 14, which is temperance. So he has to learn patience. Patience is what benefits him. But he's also an Aries. So he's got that Mars energy, and he's going to want to constantly exert it. At the same time, I take my energy, which is communication and travel and commerce. I combine it with his, and we get the sun, which only wants appreciation. That's what the sun wants. Like a Leo sign typically wants to be appreciated for what they do. They're not requiring it, but they love it. And you also get the 10, which is an upswing. So anytime my son and I are working together in creative endeavors, it always has an upturn that benefits us through appreciation and through patience and communication, starting to lay out the foundations. And now I can teach my son some very powerful things. I can tell him what correspondence is. Say, listen, if you're thinking about this thing existing, you think about it enough, it shall be. You have control over the 4 elements. As long as we're working together in this way, you can manifest anything that you want with ease because we are sharing this energy in coherence with one another. So this is just one example. Now I could take the example of my daughter. My daughter's born on the 26th. So she has this moon energy and she also has this Venus energy. But when they come together, it gives you Saturn. It's pretty powerful stuff. I can go deep into this. She's got a number 8. Okay, so I've got a 5. She's got an 8. That gives us 13. That's a 4. That's Uranus energy. That is the mysterious construct that I can't change, I can't control. So maybe I should be that way with my daughter. Maybe for us to have a healthy relationship, I try not to control a single part of her. No part of it needs to be interfered with. In fact, the more I give her freedom in an absence of judgment, the more she's going to feel comfortable and open up to me. Okay? So Veda's saying, oh my God, my daughter May 26th. She's a 26. So you can start to use this. And now we have people mentioning, like Lisa Fashionista, great to see you, Lisa, mentions here these are the astrological signs included, right? So think of it this way. There's a hierarchy, at least in the way that I was taught, and the way it works is like this. You have source, which is the unified I, It's infinite intelligence, that supersedes all things. It's source, it's our consciousness. So it overrides everything that we're talking about as far as narrative. And then you have the Trinity, which is the I am, right? You have the infinite with the active and the maternal. That which we choose and we entertain becomes real. And then after the Trinity, we have the 7 creative planets. They are as such, in order. Sun, moon. I know it sounds strange saying the sun and moon are creative planets. It's how we've associated it for however long to where it now has an impression on the subconscious and collective consciousness. So we have sun, moon, Mars, or actually I should say it in this way. I'm giving you the cycle of the way it works with a year, and then I'll give you the numbers and their association. Just follow with me. Here are the 7. Sun, moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. Okay? That would be the creative 7. And that's the cycle of seed to harvest. So the seed to harvest is like this. The sun is your seed, the subconscious is the water and the conditions of the soil, so it's the substrate. You have Mars, which is the force that allows the seedling to break the earth. You have Mercury, which is the trajectory, the course in which it moves. It's the force that moves it. Then you have Jupiter, which is the expansion of vegetation. You have Venus, which is the fluorescence, the flowering. And then you have finally Saturn, which is the fruit or the harvest. And then it starts over again. Okay? But as far as numerological terms go, the sequence is as such. You have 0, which is technically the earth or the infinite source of creation, the womb of creation, the imagination. Then you have 1, which is the sun, 2, which is the moon, 3, which is Jupiter, 4, which is Uranus, 5, Mercury, 6, Venus, 7, Neptune, 8, Saturn, 9, Mars. Okay? That's how it works. So, now everyone's probably curious about the resting energies between people. And the way it works is every single planet has its own kind of affination or alignment with energy because of association over time, because we've given it meaning. So typically the way it works is anytime you have 0, you have an enhancement of the number. Anytime you have 1, it's sun energy and should be appreciated. Anytime you have 2, it's indicative of fluctuation. Anytime you have 3, it's indicative of expansion, wealth, and usually has to deal with food. 4 has to do with the unknown, the chaotic. 5 has to do with travel, commerce, and wisdom in general. 6 has to do with friendship, expression of the arts, and celebration and music, theater, theatrics. Love, of course, can't forget love. 7, like romantic love. 7 has to do with the spiritual profound, so profundity and spirituality. Heaven, which would be the head, so like the great mysteries. 8 has to do with time and harvest. Education also falls into 8. And 9 has to do with pure energy, unadulterated source energy, moving in a direction like an arrow, like a spear. Okay? So if you start to apply those basic principles, you can say, okay, someone who has a 9, or I share a 9 with, and I happen to be a 5 and they're a 4, well, they're probably pretty fiery and they come from a place that could be chaotic, but at the same time, if I just give freedom with my intelligence by not interfering, I go through the flow and that energy can be harnessed in some way. And I have to be aware that it will be affected by the moon cycles. So as the moon is waxing, it's a great time for bringing things into your life, expanding. And as the moon is waning, as it is right now until tomorrow in the evening, at least on the East Coast, it's a good time to remove that which does not serve us. And how do you remove these things or bring them into your life? You go all the way back to source and you step into the imagination, which is your Christ consciousness. And the rest is just an umbrella brand cascade that comes from the work that you do in your imagination. So you start to see the things that you no longer need, no longer being present. And you see what you desire being present. And you've handled everything that would be required for the moon cycles to just manage the rest. You see, when you come back to living from the end, You do all the work so that you don't have to worry about the influence of the day, these planetary influences, all this numerology between us. That's really just for strategy and how to play the game. Like if you want to gain the most amount of experience points as quickly as possible, maybe you see the best possible outcome or perhaps have a little bit of an influence. That's all great and you can play that game. However, I find that just using the imagination and stepping into your wish-fulfilled state is the truth of all things, and that has the greatest influence over your life, okay? Chad says, thanks. You're welcome, Chad. I pray that this has been a good experience for everyone. Jeffrey says 6 times 6, that gives you 36, right? That's also a 9. It's interesting. Oh, we got some birds over here. And Cass says, then they're the master numbers, 11, 22, and 33. So 11, before we reduce it numerologically, actually represents strength in the tarot. Some people would argue and say it's not strength, it's justice. And they go back and forth. They are interchangeable. They are exchangeable and have an interplay. 22 would be the world in some instances, but it also is a double subconscious influence leading to the construct of life. So it's like deep spirituality. We got a cat. That's a catbird. Listen to the catbird. Hello, catbird. They sound like cats meowing. There it is. Hello, catbird. Little cuties. And then, of course, you have 33, which is the divine number. It represents Christ consciousness, and it represents the 33 vertebrae of the spine. It's a very important number for Masons because of their affination with numerology is deep. But you'll see number 33 as a big influence in Masonic lore. And you can look into all this, you know. Yeah, and you can look at number 26, actually. It has also a lot of meaning, too. Speaking of number 26, it is the collective number. So if we're looking at gematria is this accumulation of, it's the value of letters in a numerological sense. And you take that value and you put it together. So the collective value of God's name in Hebrew is number 26. So 26 represents God in numerology. Okay. That is, I can't say that it's the YVHV. That would equal 26. Yeshua or Jehovah, which really means salvation. So 26 gives you that salvation, according to association. Okay. Veda says 33 follows me everywhere. It is manifesting through your aliveness. Veda says catbirds. Oh yeah, they're awesome. Catbirds are great. Meow. They're so cute. They look like meow. They get really close to me too. They won't eat from my hand, but they'll come really close and meow. I call it, I know it's chirping, but they technically sound like cats meowing. And they look at you like this, meow, meow. And that's why they have their name, catbird. And they have beautiful, like, God gave them this brilliant plumage to where their eyeliner, it looks like they're wearing eyeliner. Kind of like the Carolina wren has it. But the catbird is a very majestic, beautiful bird. Some people don't like the way it looks, but I do. I think they're awesome. Yeah, and I'll come close. So this has been a long discourse on numerology, but it's a good one. And of course, it's just my association through life experience. It's the meaning that I've found from it, and it could mean something totally different for you. And I am okay with that by far, as long as you're okay with me. Even if you're not okay with me, actually. As long as I'm okay with you. Because that's where the power is, you know? If you're okay with it with other people, That's where your power resides. It resides in you being okay. Right? That's what we want. Okay, USA. Well, blood sport reference for you. For the folks who grew up in the 80s like me. Over here. Lisa Fashionista says, I never heard of a catbird. Yeah, they're really funny. They come by and they look at you. Meow. They hang out here. Albert, thank you for following. Veda says, is the Carolina wren similar to the cactus wren? I have a cactus wren who lives in my backyard. It could be. I've never heard of the cactus wren. So the Carolina wren is new on the block here in New England. They used to be migratory birds, and they're very cute. They look like tea kettles. That's the best way to identify them. Their tail sticks up and back like the spout of a tea kettle. And then they have these big rotund bellies. And they'll look around and do really cute movements. And they sing all day. They're one of the most talkative birds that is around. And they even have one call that is extremely ironic but funny. And they just go, tea kettle, 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 tea kettle. That's the Carolina wren. So the Carolina wren now in New England, all the way as far north as Massachusetts, is a year-round bird. And this is fairly recent. They decided to just overwinter. And so the Carolina wren is a monogamous bird, chooses one partner, and if you see one, it's likely a male, because the females are hysterical in that the male has to go and find and make like 4 or 5 different nests. And they will choose anything they can find, from the underside of umbrellas to grills in your backyard to big, huge holes in trees like wolf trees that have been burrowed. And they'll set up shop, and then their one partner will come with on one day, and he'll be like, you like this house? She says, no. It's like, all right, come over here. Here's your other house. You like this one? Maybe. All right, come over here. I'll show you this other house. You like this one? I like the umbrella. Okay, you like the umbrella. Okay, this is where we're going to set up our shop, the umbrella. She goes under the umbrella, has the babies, and he's going around looking for the next best house, collecting food, flying back, and otherwise just going tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea all day. It's the Carolina wren. They're very, very cute. You also have, the blue jays are very similar in their behavior. So the blue jay is part of the crow family. So you'll have the male blue jay comes out, and like a Pez dispenser will just load up on peanuts and other morsels if I put them out there. And at first I was like, that is a selfish bird. Very selfish bird, and it's taking away from the other birds. Well, first of all, the blue jay is much larger than your average Carolina wren, tufted titmouse, or your, black-capped chickadee. It's much larger. It's part of the crow family. So what it's actually doing, I discovered, is it's loading up like a Pez dispenser all this food, because it brings it back to the nest to feed its wife and its children. So it's actually just gathering food for its family, bringing it back, feeding its family, and once its family's fed, it comes back and loads up for himself, but he'll eat last. And they just come around for the early morning until maybe the early afternoon, and then they call it quits for the day. And they'll just stay at home with their family. And they live for a much longer time than most birds that are wild. They come around. They can live between 7 and 10 years. And they will learn who you are. And they will troll you. The blue jays are such trolls. I have this one that goes up on the branches. I've done this before, but it gets up on a branch and it just starts like bouncing. And then it'll go. It'll pretend to be a raptor bird. It will pretend to be a bird of prey just to freak out the other birds and me. that there's, a red-tailed hawk or something above us. It'll pretend to be it. And then it'll start bouncing on the tree. So it's such a troll. It's awesome, though. And, ravens are trolls, too. And they can mimic human voices without any robotic tin, side effect. It just sounds so human. And you can find people on TikTok who have ravens demonstrating this. But they could be right now in these woods, hearing me for years and know my voice to a T. And if I were to come through here at night, if they wanted to, they could be like, William, we hear you, William. And they could do it. And I would be like, dude, we got to get out of here. Yes, William, you need to get out of here. But first, give me some peanuts. Give me some peanuts first, William. That could totally be a raven. Trolling my ass. And that's what the crows do. The crows, the blue jays, and the ravens love to troll people. And they're extremely smart. They're like as smart as 6 or 7 year old boys and girls. The average 6 or 7 year old, they're just as smart. They can do all sorts of tasks and they have tons of different calls. So I love the birds. Power Feeling says, that's funny, birds are great. Yeah, they're awesome. I totally am in love with birds now, and it took me some time, but coming here into the woods was really my initiation. I started to understand and appreciate them a lot more, especially because where I live is right on the outskirts of the forest. And when you live right on the border of the forest, you get the most diversity because there's the most amount of food and freedom. So you'll get everything from bluebirds to obviously chickadees and titmice. I'll even get like the grosbeak. Grosbeaks during the summer. I get American goldfinches. Of course, a variety of woodpeckers. I've even seen Baltimore Orioles here in the summer, and they love fruit with peanut butter. So you could put some orange slices with peanut butter, and the Baltimore Oriole comes by, and they're so beautiful. And the grosbeak will just come to the window and look at you. It's not eating, it's just looking at you for a good while. Just checking you out, turning its head, looking at you. Yeah, they're very funny. Lisa Fashionista says, I would be so freaked out if I heard that at night. We were referring to how ravens can mimic human voices perfectly. Forget, the cockatiel is really good, but it has somewhat of a robotic aftertone. No, not the raven. It sounds just like a human. And so if they hear you enough, they could totally troll you into believing you have someone behind you, especially if you're in the dark. And if you think they don't know that, then you don't know ravens. Because they totally will troll you. It's like a kid playing with their parents. I'm going to scare mom and dad. And that's what the raven will do. And they live a good long while. Vicky says, funny how curious birds are. They are amazing. And they fly. So they have the gift of flight. It's so cool. And typically their heart rate, much faster than human. So their perception of reality is vastly different. They're watching us in slow motion lumber around. It's the Ant-Man effect. We're just lumbering to them. This is before getting into the hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are distinctly spiritual experiences. So spiritual. And the hummingbird is extremely rare because it can fly in reverse. So it can be like a hovercraft flying around in different directions. Has to consume its weight in nectar every day in order to stay alive. So it does a lot of its witnessing of life while perched and resting. Otherwise, it is looking for food and spending a lot of energy in its search. There's a pileated woodpecker. Those could be mating calls. So they peck at the tree as a form of communication, and it's carpentry for their home. But they could be mating and calling each other or competing. Sounds like a machine gun. But they're communicating and getting food. The vibration of the tree from their beaks startles the grubs underneath, and they come forth and then they eat them. It's pretty cool. That's a machine gun. So that's some carpentry going on. This is why the smaller birds would never mess with the pileated or the red-bellied woodpecker. Yeah, because they have basically a rapid-fire sword. They can just drill into you. You know, they have a jackhammer for a sword. But I would say the most beautiful of singers, the award has to go between the bluebird, the eastern bluebird, and Thoreau used to say they carry the sky on their back. They're so blue. And they only come by when there are grubs, so you have to get specific feed for them. And they're very picky when it comes to their home. But they should be coming into a nice cedar home that I put out for them this year. It has to be meticulously cleaned. And it has to be spotless. But they have a wonderful call, and the Baltimore Oriole sings unlike anything I've ever heard. It's just, you hear it and you know it's like a big blessing. And then the black-capped chickadee is one of the tiniest of the birds. And what's beautiful about it is that its heart rate is very fast, so it perceives things slower than the rest of the birds. It's also one of the more curious birds. They look like they're wearing these huge protective batting helmets. They're wearing these batting helmets that cover their eyes. They're the most cute little creatures I think I've ever seen. And that's also the state bird of Massachusetts, is the black-capped chickadee. All right, folks. Well, we're probably close to about 15% battery. So I need to end the stream in order for the chat to be saved in the recording that I have going. So this is going to be my point of departure up here. I want to thank all of you for joining us today in our extended discourse on numerology and consciousness. If you find that this was enjoyable and you'd like to catch the entire broadcast as well as previous broadcasts, feel free to go to my YouTube page. That was a good hill. And you can find it, all the recordings there. And the links are in my bio. I also have as a link in my bio to my Suno page, where you can listen to all of my original music made through AI. And there is quite a variety. Most of it is dance, synthwave, and otherwise bouncy dance music. But you'll find a wide variety if you listen. I even have some death metal in there from last night, just to make a joke. I wrote a death metal song about pancakes and living in their glory of consumption. Eating pancakes in glory through a death metal song I thought would be fun to write at 1 o'clock in the morning. And that's the beauty of artificial intelligence. You could wake up in the middle of the night and suddenly be inspired, and you don't have to walk into a studio and hit the record button. You just type in the song that you want and the lyrics that you'd like written with it, if any. All right, Veda. Sending over the Let 'em Cooks. Thanks, Veda. And the Tiny Diney. All right, folks, let's end it. Get some more sun before we do. Please remind yourself as many times during the day that it is time for a daily footprint. You can step into the imagination by monitoring your breath or just trying to come in to feel the presence of your body with your eyes closed. And in doing this, you are doing all that is necessary for your healing and your health. The ego would want you to believe it's a dumb exercise because it's dying every time you love yourself in such a way by saying there is no danger and this does not move me as much as I observe I am alive. Which was the truth of your existence when you came into this world, both as a conceived child in the womb and before you were given and imposed upon you a label in a form of a name and collection of life experiences. Before all of that, you were just alive, witnessing this manifold expression of grace in all of its great mystery. Okay? So know that that's your truth more than anything, and that I love you so much, understanding that you are that, and that each and every one of us is here in a body to cherish and love it by entertaining good things. The things that we desire are unique and different, and each individual person has their own kingdom through the imagination to explore that life, so as not to trespass on anyone else or be led into the destruction of limitation and the suffering that follows that, okay? So come into being, give yourself your daily footprint in your garden. You are king, you are queen, you are emperor, you are empress, and you are certainly wish fulfilled if you decide to live it in the imagination. Your cells take that vacation first and feel it most and immediately. And what follows is their cascading reverberation of relief that you'll feel in the form of endorphins, grace, and bliss. And then afterwards, you'll get the beautiful harvest as the fruit of your labor in the form of manifestation, okay? Courage, thank you for the invitations to battle. I think we had our one and only today, that being with Grandma Pokey. I want to thank Grandma Pokey for sending the invitation. We get a chance to be with her today. I pray for her brother as seeing him wish fulfilled in perfect health and service through his community as a preacher, as a man of God. Okay, so let us send off that love to all the corners of the known universe, all that work that we've done. Please rest and rest well. Please relax. Allow yourself to receive on this day without restriction or limitation. Pamper yourself in the right way through self-love. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Your cells, thank you. Veda says your cells. My cells, thank you as well. Of course, Veda, it's all you. This is your infinite intelligence working through you to have this co-creation right now. And it's all you. So just know, Lisa Fashionista says thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa. All of you divine beings. Can't see I'm in the sun. Good. Keep getting that sun. That's a good reminder, folks. Try to give yourself a good 15 to 30 minutes sunshine, unfiltered, without sunblock per day. Okay? It is a natural anesthetic, and it helps to convert your cholesterol into vitamin D, which serves as a transport vehicle for your calcium and other vitals, the vital minerals that you need, okay? I love you all. Be well. You'll see this video tonight on YouTube, okay? May all your wishes be fulfilled in the now. It is your truth. You win.